now from Hollywood, California, the horror capital of the world, the Boulet Brothers, creatures of the night.
Welcome to Creatures of the Night, Uglies. As always, we are your ghost hosts for tonight's episode, the Queens of Darkness, the Boulet Brothers, Dragula,
and Swan Thula.
Swan, how are you doing this evening?
I'm good. I'm glad we're recording the podcast. I'm happy to be back. I'm so happy to be home in LA.
Yeah.
Which I did not think I would be saying when I left. But now that I've been all over the country and tasted all of your humidity, I'm like, LA is where it's at. I love it here.
It's funny. Every city we went to, you were like, I love this city. I could move here. I love this city. I could move here. And then slowly you're like, LA is not that bad.
It's true. It's the heat. It's rough.
You're not into humidity, that's for sure.
I'm not good under that.
Yeah, and it was pretty swampy in some of those, like Florida and stuff. I was like, ooh.
Yeah. Well, you expect it there, but the surprises were like Chicago, I felt was like, wow, you could really feel the humidity here. And it's just surprising because it's so far north.
Yeah. All right. So tonight I want to start off by talking about Psycho because, as you know, we've been obsessively watching everything about Psycho. Mm-hmm. I don't know what brought me back to it, but I wanted to rewatch the original, which I did on tour, which I've seen 100 times, and it's one of my favorite movies. I feel like I could watch it like Rocky Horror like 5,000 times and I'd never get sick of it. But I had never seen Psycho 2, 3, or 4. And so I watched Psycho 2, and then you watched Psycho 2, and then I watched Psycho 3, and then we watched Psycho 3, and then we went to watch Psycho 4, and we couldn't find it.
Yeah. And then Drac went online and ordered the Blu-ray to come overnight, and now we have the whole series. We just got to go out and buy a Blu-ray player. We will be watching Psycho 4 before the next episode of the podcast. And we're telling everybody this because next episode, we are going to a deep dive in all of the Psycho movies, 1 through 4. Not the remake, not the Bates Motel show. Psycho 1, 2, 3, and 4 will be the Junior Mints Movie Club review. And it will probably take up a good amount of the episode because we want to talk about queer horror and what that means and how characters are coded queer and how Norman Bates is a great example of that.
Right. I mean, the whole Psycho franchise has so many queer, interesting tidbits, even with Anthony Perkins and his life and him living as a gay man back then and dying of AIDS and all that stuff. It's just really, really interesting. And the reason I kind of want to talk about it is I occasionally am reminded of the fact that there are a decent amount of homophobic horror fans out there. And I'm like, girl, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about. Like, you say you love horror, but then you get upset when you think queer topics are introduced in horror movies, when I'm like, have you ever seen a horror movie?
Going back to literally like the 1920s and 30s. Like, there have been like queer coding since way back then.
I mean, the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari was very queer coded, and that's as old as you can get as far as a horror movie goes. But Psycho, Hellraiser, Nightmare on Elm Street, Dracula's Daughter, The Lighthouse, Elvira herself is a lesbian. Like, get with the program,
Dressed
guys.
to Kill, Silence of the Lambs. Like, it goes on and on and on.
Terror Train. Don't forget that classic.
You keep trying to make Terror Train happen. I don't think it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. Maybe if it doesn't, there might be something more like a Ghost Train that's going to happen soon.
Ooh, I like the sound of that.
I bet you do. Yeah, and so just thinking about all that, it's inspired us to celebrate more queer horror. We're going to do a deep dive and watch, as Swan said, Psycho 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we're going to discuss it on the next episode. Let's take a quick break, and we will be right back.
Welcome back, Sodomites, and welcome back, Prince of the Sodomites, our nefarious news anchor and co-host of Creatures of the Night. He's something between an Igor, Rocky, and a long-lost character from Goosebumps. It's Ian DeVogler, everybody. Ian, welcome to the show.
Oh my God. Thank you so much. I have to say that I have been campaigning for Prince of the Sodomites for what feels like years, but I also know my place. I could never be the queen of the Sodomites.
That's right, because that spot is already taken.
You call yourself queen, it automatically ages you. So enjoy Prince while you can.
Oh my God.
One day you're Prince of the Sodomites, you're hot, you're on the front page of Scruff, and then, suddenly you're a queen of the Sodomites.
This old bitch of the sodomite.
Wait a minute, that's already me.
Queens can be young and pretty.
Oh, I know. They're like the Grand Empress Duchess or something.
Grand Dame.
Grand Sodomites.
That reminds me of a drag queen. You're going to know who I'm talking about. I'm not going to say their name.
Okay.
Who was one of those characters who were legendary, darling. Legendary because they never left a scene that's usually populated by 30-year-old people.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And they never went anywhere or became successful, and they were still in the same bar that you left them at 20 years ago.
And she is Queen of the Sodomites.
Right.
That could be so many drag queens.
Well, the one I'm
literally.
talking about always would insist that when they announced her, it was the Grand Duke of the Ball of,
Grand Duke of my balls.
Oh my God, it's all that. You know what I'm talking
I
about?
don't.
Ooh.
I don't know who you mean.
Their initials are RR,
Oh my God, yes. Okay, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's gonna have to
You
redact
went back
that.
a few years for that one. That's like digging way back. but
It
yeah.
is, but I that character archetype, I want to put in a movie at some point because it is so absurd
It's-
and amazing.
And so LA, like I've
Yep.
never experienced
Yes.
a character like that in New York. I moved to LA and I met them immediately. And I remember this one night, like we hooked her up. We gave her a VIP seat at our New Year's Eve ball, and it was like all cute. And she was just sour faced the whole night. So I'm like,
Ew.
RR, what is the matter? Like, are you okay? Like,
What's up,
you want
RR?
a drink? And she's like, I'm just, you know what? I appreciate you asking me. I'm just a little bothered because you put her name over mine, and I'm more famous than her.
Oh my God. What did you say in that moment?
Bitch. I mean, I
knowing
was
you,
so
you
stunned.
probably were like, get out. You
yeah.
would read her all the
No,
time.
I would read her. I would. I'd have
And then
to
she
let her
would
know.
sulk and she would come to me and be like, Swan hates me. And I'm like, well, it's your fault.
Oh my God.
Anyways,
Yeah.
love her. I love that she exists. I love that it exists her, but that title reminded me of her. Sorry, little side rant.
Ooh, I live for a side rant, honestly.
Okay, now Ian, are you looking forward to your forced viewing of Psycho 2, 3, 4? Psycho 2, 3, and 4?
I'm definitely looking forward to it. Although I will say, Drac texted me in our group chat and goes, "Have you seen Psycho, Psycho 2, Psycho 3, or Psycho 4?" To which I had to say, the original yes, but the rest nar. But I do think it's an important part of horror history, queer history, and all of that. And I am excited. I don't know that I'm excited for the potentially declining quality of said films, but I am excited so we can talk about it.
I
There are
will
still some
say-
interesting shots.
Ooh.
There are some
Oh, yeah.
kind of cool kills, and they
Okay.
it's self-referential. It goes back and you repeat characters, and it kind of it makes a rich tapestry. It's kind of cool.
It's really interesting.
Rich Tapestry.
It does, and
That's
it's
a drag king name.
it's more of like it has a speed bump, but then I would say go up. So I wouldn't say it declines in quality, though I haven't seen 4 yet, so I don't know. Because
okay.
that one, from what I hear, was made for TV.
oh my god!
I don't know for sure. That's what I think I read. I got to do some more
Ah.
research into it, and we'll talk about it next episode. But I think it's important because it wraps up the story, and that's the last segment of the Psycho franchise. I mean, I know there was like the Bates Motel show, but I'm not. I'm just counting the movies.
Yeah, because kind of in an unusual way to approach a series of films like this, the character of Norman Bates and the sequential order of what happens in his life is maintained throughout all the movies.
Oh.
They never go back. You don't time jump. It's not a prequel. Like it's just like
Wow.
one after the next, and it's kind of cool.
I think it's really. I think you're going to enjoy it. Actually, there's it's still it's an 80s movie. They're 80s movies,
Sure.
but so that part of it you have to kind of overlook. But I think you'll enjoy it.
I love the 80s of it all too. It's so dead wrong. The 80s is fucking wrong, right? And that's why we love it. But I do think that's where all of these kind of like pseudo homophobic subscribers live. Like they still think it's like 1985 and cute, but that was like 50 years ago. You know
what's crazy about that though is because I know the three of us, we all share a love of that sort of just wrongness.
Right.
But even to me, I'm like, this is camp.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is full blown camp. Like I see like really inappropriate, and I'm gonna say sometimes you see homophobic things happen on the street, and I'm like, oh honey, like this is camp.
It's hysterical. I agree. People get upset about it. Then I'm like, okay, guess what? That's what it was like in the 80s.
Yeah.
Like, so what do you want to go back and erase everything? Like, that's what it was.
There's another aspect too, because the sexual assault of it all, right? Like it seems like that's like almost like a throwaway. Like the girl, like she walks into her room and she's like, "Hey, sweetheart, you shouldn't keep your door open like this. I mean, there's a lot of drunk guys and they're horny and rolling around. Like you don't want anything bad." I'm like, "You don't want anything." I mean, just casually like talking about like a rape scenario.
Well, look at Sleepaway Camp. That was like sexual assault, the whole thing, and like, but that is the mindset of society back then, and I think it's important to sort of not try to erase that, look at it, and you got to acknowledge that it's real.
I think, too, just with Sleepaway Camp, I mean, yes, what a problematic history that it has, but also, as queer people, it's like, hi, this is the horror that we all live through all the time. So we get to decide, oh, this is actually camp because this references real life, or even for women to say, oh, we love horror because, newsflash, this sort of thing happens to women all the time. So now we get to reclaim that power. I'm like, I'm ready for Psycho 4. Let's go.
I agree with that because that's the thing about horror representation, right? Queer horror in those time periods is because people say, well, look, the killer is queer or a drag queen or they're trans or whatever. And, we don't like that. That's problematic. I understand what they're saying, but I'm like, well, it's representation to me because guess what? Queer people can be crazy too. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, to me, it's still representation. I like it.
I don't know if I can agree with that because it's disproportionate.
It is. No, I get what it is when you look back, but I'm just saying the fact that there are, whether they're portrayed negatively or not, the fact that there's so many queer icons in horror that are out and proud, it's just, I don't know. I think it's interesting.
And we've talked about how Elvira did like the biggest sleight of hand switcheroo in horror history because she was like the TNA princess of exactly the type of people that we're talking about.
And then she's like, surprise, I'm a lesbian.
We're the whole time, honey.
I love it.
Oh, I love it. What a move.
She's like, I've got all the Coors coins. I'm good. Now, surprise, lesbian.
Good for her.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly doesn't seem like it's affected her career negatively, which is awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so Ian, what is the news this week?
Well, now that everyone has returned from our magnetic, malicious, and maligned trip to the Oregon Vortex, please.
Oregon.
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 I did say on the podcast, I said Oregon. and then on the TikTok, I said Oregon. I don't know why I did it.
I know people geek over the pronunciation Oregon, but okay, I'm from the Northeast. We said Oregon. That's how it was taught to us. But then it was like only when you live your life and you meet people from that part of the country, and they start saying Oregon, and you're like, okay, maybe I need to.
I'm partially compensating because sometimes a little Southern accent can slip out.
Let it out.
No, but I'm like, so, the way a Southern person would say it is Oregon. And it's like very like grown,
Oregon.
And so I'm like, I don't want to sound like that. So Oregon. But I'm like, that's not how to say it either. So anyways.
Well, whether you believe that it is Oregon or Oregon, please have a seat next to the radio and tune the dial to the forbidden Creatures of the Night news station for your weekly horror updates from the darkened streets of Hollywood. Now, I will say our first piece of news is our darkest, but I want to go up from here. But we would be remiss to not mention the death of genre actor and film star Donald Sutherland, who passed away this week at the age of 88. Fans of the actor may remember him in classic titles such as Don't Look Now, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Virus, and of course, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, just to name a few titles squarely in the horror genre.
What a loss. A classic character actor.
He had a very long, full life, though.
He did. And I read that he has I think it's 199 actor credits. And
Wow.
Yeah, and he
Wow.
had one more slated before he passed away. So literally would have had 200 film credits, which
That's
is crazy.
incredible.
Incredible
Wow.
career.
Rest in peace. And now, bringing things back into the light for this particular news segment, let's go darker and deeper into the world of Universal monsters than we've ever been before, with Universal Studios officially announcing the brand new theme park within Universal Studios Orlando titled Dark Universe earlier this year. That being said, horror fans and theme park enthusiasts collectively howled at the moon this week with the reveal of concept art and a video promoting the new theme park and some of the attractions. This is the decrepit crypt of the Dark Universe, and for a brief synopsis, patrons will be transported to Darkmoor, the ravaged village that connects all of the attractions for the new theme park in 2025.
I love the sound of it.
Why does Orlando get everything?
I know, I'm like, Victoria, hook it up.
I mean, how excited is Victoria?
I'm pissed.
She's got to be working on
yeah.
all of it.
I feel like we need a trip to Orlando for this because check this out. I don't know if y'all have done a deep dive into it, but the whole entire thing is going to be set around this village called Darkmoor, and there's all sorts of stuff, and it all leads up to Frankenstein Manor. So there's Monsters Unchained, the Frankenstein Experiment, there's Curse of the Werewolf, which is going to be a dark ride. There's the Darkmoor monster makeup experience. You get to do, of course, meet and greets with all of them. There's Das Steakhouse, which is an ominous restaurant, which we need to go to.
It sounds delicious.
There's the Burning Blade Tavern. There's the Delace. It's like there's just, I mean, they are really doing it. It's not just like, oh, go here and there's like one ride. It's like a full-fledged Edgelord University
I love
Are
that
they
it's
going
so
full,
dark
like-
themed the whole year round.
Yeah,
So cool.
I like it too. I really loved when they did those black and white mazes back in the day. There, did you go? Were you with us that time?
It was
we
one
went?
year, yeah.
It was so good and it was scary, but the whole thing was black and white. All the characters in it were black and white. I loved it. I hope they do something like that.
Me too.
Did you say when it was supposed to come out?
2025.
Nice. Okay. Wow.
I know, so really fast.
Fast.
They got Victoria
Victoria's
working.
like,
Need more latex. And finally, just a very quick roundup of upcoming projects that I am personally ecstatic for. We have a brand new entry into the Megan universe, and that's right, I'm talking M3GAN, your new best friend and my favorite haunted doll, with the announcement of Soulmate. That's SOULM, the number 8, TE, which is going to be styled as a 90s erotic thriller. And that's on top of Megan 2 coming later this year as well. And for those of you who are also mildly obsessed with long legs, we're getting another Osgood Perkins directed film with the Stephen King adaptation of the quote-unquote fun for the whole family film The Monkey, slated for 2025. James Wan is producing. And also, for the Swanthula's Book Nook enthusiasts, we're getting a Terrifier 2 novelization this Halloween.
Oh, interesting.
I know, I'm like, I haven't read a film novelization since I was like a kid. I'm like, I didn't know they still did that.
yeah, me neither. So is it going to be a different story than what was in the movie? Or
It's going to be the same thing, just in written form.
Weird.
just watch the movie?
Why?
I don't know, but all I can imagine is, and then Art the Clown ripped her arm in half, and I'll be there with my bookmark.
What's your take on Soulmate? Because I saw that announcement and my mind immediately jumped to like a concept. I know nothing about it, but I
Yeah, is it like a killer robot? Like, is it the same like
It's-
a spinoff, or what is it?
Yeah, so it's going to be a spinoff, and it's going to be in the same universe. And my guess is that essentially they're going to take whatever the AI that pilots Megan, they're also going to put that into, I hate to call it a sex doll, but some sort of like romance. You know, it's your best friends with benefits now.
Gotcha.
that's exactly where my mind went. I was like, oh, this is going to be like, a killer sex doll, but AI generated and cool.
Honestly,
Kind of good idea.
Unexpected.
hot.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would love if they took the camp and just sort of all of the good parts of Megan, but then amped up the violence and make it an adult film, because it's the one piece. I love Megan as gateway horror, but there is a part of me that's like, ooh, this would be actually really fun if people were getting their limbs ripped off and
Yeah,
stuff.
like
Totally.
really sadistic.
Yeah,
Wasn't
like,
there
do
a
it.
director's cut where it was more? We never watched.
Yeah, I
it.
never saw it.
Never seen it. I want it though.
We should check it out.
I heard it's more violent.
Yeah. All right, Ian. Well, thank you for those tasty news morsels. Now it's time for this episode's Junior Mints Movie Club movie review. Yay!
Yay.
For this episode. For this episode, we chose to watch Exhuma, which is currently available on our home network Shudder and AMC Plus. It's a 2024 South Korean horror film, and it follows the process of excavating an ominous grave, which unleashes dreadful consequences buried beneath. So, how did you, without spoiling it, how did you all like it overall?
Ian?
I love this movie. I really do. I had no idea what to expect, and I was gagged. I was super gagged, but I also think that I thought that I was Maguma, and now I know that I'm actually Exhuma, so that's gotta be my new name. Yeah.
Oh, God. You know, that's so hard for me to resist to just keep that going. And she washes with Noxzema.
What was your take?
I absolutely, capital L, loved this movie.
Yes!
It
Oh my
was
God.
so good. And as it was unfolding, first of all, it went on and it switched so many times.
Yeah.
And every time it did, I was like, oh, there's more. And I love the styling. I love the mysticism. I was not bothered by subtitles at all. Like, I love a movie that's made in a country other than America because we get a different interpretation of the genre. And it was great.
Well, you'll be surprised to know that I agree with both of you. I absolutely love this
Yes!
movie. It's probably one of my favorite horror movies of the year so far.
Okay. Point blank period, y'all. We have a new policy with Creatures of the Night where we do not talk about the films at all before we sit down to review. So I've been nervous because you never know. Like, it's, and of course, and you know, drag is art and art is subjective, and so is movies and da da da.
Yeah.
But to hear that y'all loved it, oh, I'm so gagged.
So
because I
good.
fucking love this movie.
Yeah.
Me
I'm
too.
so
And it kept
gagged.
going. Like, I felt like, you know, and it had it in chapters. You know,
Yeah.
the story was broken up into chapters. And every chapter was almost its own movie. I felt
Engrossed
full
in,
from
yeah,
eating. You know what I
absolutely.
mean? Like, I was
Yeah.
like, I'm happy with this. And then it kept going. And then I was like, wow, it just keeps going darker and darker. I thought it was already creepy when the first spirit emerges and you're seeing them in the reflections and
Yeah.
stuff. But then where
Love
it
the way they handled
goes,
that.
I'm like, wow.
I had to take a Junior Mints Movie Club break to get a coffee refill at one point, and this was, I think, in the middle of, I think, chapter 4, and I paused it, and I saw there was still 45 minutes left, and I was like, oh my, where
That
is this gonna go?
That is so. I mean, there must be something in the flow of the movie. The 45-minute remaining mark is where we stopped it, and had
Oh my
even
God.
picked up a little bit later.
Oh my
And when I paused, I'm like, wow, there's still like a lot of movie left.
Yeah, and my favorite part about that is sometimes you pause a movie and there's 45 minutes of it, you're like, oh, 45
Damn.
minutes. But I was like, yes, 45 more minutes. Like, where is this gonna go? Loved it.
So let's talk about the story. So a geomancer and shaman are hired by a family to rid their bloodline of a curse or a haunting. And this leads them to the grandfather's grave, who they exhume in an attempt to cleanse it, but things go badly from there.
Yeah. Let's just talk about these concepts for a minute, because this is where I started to fall under the spell of Exhuma. When we start talking about things like shamanism, anima, geomancy, Buddhism, and the myths and legends from both Korea and Japan. I mean, it was rich.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The moment, well, truly, I was locked in from moment one. Like, the cinematography of this film is beautiful. And I know that we're talking about the narrative, but the movie is just so good. And there's something so strange and mysterious. It's the lack of information from the actual narrative of like, oh, well, what's the deal with the grave? Don't worry about it. You're getting paid a lot of money. But then we have, like you're talking about, shamanism, geomancy, which I'm like, well, geomancy is the coolest word I've learned all week.
Yeah.
Like, that's awesome. And then when we get to the exhumation scene and we do the full-blown ritual, I was like, I am in love. I'm in
Yeah.
love with this movie.
I felt the
was-
same way.
So did I. I mean, it was like exhilarating to
Yeah.
watch that unfold on screen, and I really loved it because they didn't play up. Hey, everybody, let me telegraph this so that it hits you right in the face. This is supernatural. We're doing like a magic ritual. It was very much just like folded into like the experience of how they spoke, how they ate, where they buried their dead. Like it's just part of their life.
So in the story, they dig up the grandfather's coffin and then they end up taking it away, and they're not supposed to open it.
Right.
Which
the crematorium.
which they do end up, a side character ends up opening it. What was the grandson trying to hide by not opening? What do you think that was about?
I have a theory, and unfortunately, I don't know enough about relationships between Korean and Japanese people during World War I. It's an area of history that I'm just not an expert on. But as the film unfolded, without giving anything away, my thought was that the grandson was trying to avoid talking about his father's history, his war history at that time.
Okay.
Because of the cultural ideology around that time.
That makes a lot of sense. So we all know what happens from there, right? Like the spirit escapes from the coffin. It starts plaguing his family, kills his own son, and then almost kills his great grandson. And I thought he was going to come after his sister. He didn't do that. I don't know why. Did you guys notice that? What do you think that was?
Before we go there, can we just talk about how fucking she is, like the sister?
Oh yeah,
when
dancing
when she came on screen.
No,
the
old granny.
The
The minute
matriarch.
she showed up,
I was like,
Swan was in fifth heaven.
Oh my god, yes! I'm like, this is a powerful.
There's
granny.
nothing Swan loves more than an Asian granny.
Yes, a
It's true.
Muji granny,
It
honey.
is seriously, inside, there is a part of me that's Muji granny.
I think so.
And she is fierce too, though, because I love when she shows up at the gravesite, and you can just tell, and the acting is phenomenal in this movie too. But you can just tell she's like, I have seen and done some shit, and now I'm gonna shuffle around, and no one is gonna move me any faster. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I love her.
Totally. So it's already terrifying, the spirits haunting everyone, really crazy stuff's happening, but then it goes further.
A lot further. When we saved the life of the grandson, which is kind of like an epic unfolding of supernatural events, I thought we might be winding down.
Me too.
But that was kind of like the 45-minute mark. 45 minutes in and 45 minutes to go kind of thing.
When we saw the top of the coffin and they started digging out more, and you saw that it was inverted, and then the chains around it, I mean, they did such a fantastic job of projecting how terrible it is that they uncovered this thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They managed to establish a palpable atmosphere of supernatural ancestral dread. And that's not easy. That is not easy.
No, it's not.
And it was done subtly.
Visually,
and it was just
too.
so unnerving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and with the writing and the acting too, because earlier in the film, and what I love is we have this ensemble cast of pseudo mystics almost. Like we have full-blown geomancers, we have shamans, and then we also have the funeral director who is sort of brought in too. And what I love about them is that I think there are other examples of almost sort of swindler type characters, or like a cast of, oh, we're taking advantage for the money. But these characters, they're the real deal.
Right.
They do this all the time and for real hauntings, curses, magic, and darkness. But they're also like, well, I'm here to make some fucking money.
Yeah.
So let's get going.
Yeah.
And it switches where we have the younger female shaman is sort of like, oh, well, it's always hard to work with, with old people because they're not ready.
She uses the word geezer.
Yeah, with geezers. and she's sort of pushing. She's like, well, come on, dig it up. Let's go. We can handle this. And then when they get to the second coffin, she's like, we need to leave. We're not doing this. And I was like, oh shit, girl. Honey, okay. The dread we plummet to a new level of dark.
And so, talking about going to a new level, we go from a purely spiritual ghost that appears in mirrors and stuff to now we're dealing with a physical entity, a gigantic physical entity who is just throwing them around like they're nothing and killing people and looking legitimately terrifying.
They did such a good job. And I'm a harsh critic when it comes to monsters on film. I love practical, and if they're going to do CG, I'm like, it should just look nice. And I think that they did a really good job of being like, what you're gonna see is it's always shrouded in darkness. I was like, this character looks scary and in reality and just gnarly too.
Yeah.
It's weird. Because we just went to Japan and we sort of went to this Japanese history museum and they were talking about the history of samurais and sort of referencing some of these wars. I thought it was really interesting to watch this movie and see it. You know, I don't know, like you, I don't know a ton about it as well, but I know a little bit. And seeing it reference that, I thought it was so eerie and just set such a tone for it.
And there's so much display of supernatural power that happens in so many different ways. Like you get those subtle manifestations like in reflections and like let me in and like
open
very
the window.
very vampiric, invite me into your home, like that kind of stuff. I do want to preserve the ending of the movie and like maybe from the middle on for audience members, because if you've not heard of this and you've not seen it, you absolutely need to watch it. And I don't want to spoil it because oftentimes we'll just like talk freely about a film and I'm not going to do that about the ending, but you just see more ways that the supernatural world kind of weaves in with our world and like the fire and I mean it's just incredible.
Honestly, 100% agreed. Point blank period. And we'll give our thing at the end. Y'all should go see Exhuma. It is crazy.
Yeah,
it is
I
crazy. You mentioned, Swan, how the supernatural interacts with our world. And one thing that and it's a small detail, but something I really love about this movie is this movie take place in like 2024. It's like it's happening right now. And we have these very cool and subtle ways of denoting that. Like one of the geomancer is smoking a vape pen. And then there's a scene where they're at like a really nice gym with a spin class. And these are details that's like, who kind of cares? But at the same time, I'm like, wait a minute. This is absolutely present day. And we're dealing with ancient magic.
I agree with you. I love that they showed that these people that, were sort of mystical warriors were just normal people. Like she's at a spin class and they're over there eating hot pot. And it's just like,
they have modern lives.
Yeah, exactly. I thought that was so interesting. Were you all clear on the connection between what they were eventually dealing with and the grandfather? Do you think that was clearly spelled out or no?
For me, it was not. And I was still kind of like searching for those answers as I continued to watch. And I just chalked it up to like, you know what? It is subtitled and it is talking about a subject matter that I know nothing about. I love it, but I'm going to have to go to the library.
It seemed like I have to go to the library. They did reference that he was part of a battalion and they did something together to make all this happen. The part I was confused about is how did having this creature underneath his burial make him become evil towards his family? Like that part, unless they're trying to say he didn't have a proper or safe burial or something, so that maybe that's what it was.
Yeah, I think I feel very similarly, and same. I chalked it up to a couple of things. I was like, oh, and honestly, it's a movie that I would be like, I would just go rewatch it just to be like, oh, I want more of an understanding. It was that good. But I felt like the one piece that I really loved was the discussion of the anima, of this is an object that is infused or evolves with a spirit. And I feel like there's something there of the corruptive magic or just the evil that was put into this object that sort of corrupts everything around it. Like the place that the exhumation takes place in is desolate and just there's nothing real that grows there besides sort of the gnarled trees. And I thought maybe there was just some sort of corruption there. Or maybe he was like, you know what, actually, fuck my family. I never liked them anyway. This ugly baby,
Well, there was something that they referenced quickly about the spirit. And I think it was in reference to the spirit of the patriarch, the grandfather, and how there was nothing left in him but like hunger and envy. Because he didn't have a body and he's trying to eat organs from his ancestors. And I know like this is kind of like wrapped and weaved in Asian beliefs about ancestral worship and stuff like that and how they can affect your modern life. So I think it had something to do with that. But again, I like what you're saying, Ian, I would want to go back and rewatch just to get a deeper understanding.
I don't know a lot about Korean culture, but one thing that I noticed, and this is something I noticed in Japan too, is the reverence that they have for the dead, their family, and their elders. And I don't know, it's weird in our society in the United States. I feel like there's a real lack of all that. I don't know, I think it makes it more haunting.
I agree. What did y'all think about the setting? Because I felt like this film could not have an American cast. It could not have American
No.
writers. It couldn't have an American director. I was like, it's so foreign, which I think makes it so good. I was like, I am being transported completely to another world.
Mm-hmm.
And even some of it took place in the U.S. If you notice, I think they were in San Francisco where the baby was, and like they were.
Oh, mama, they're on the 101. They're in L.A.
Oh, are they?
Yeah,
Oh,
straight
okay.
up, yeah.
Yeah, so it was an interesting balance of old world and modern in many ways.
So, what were your favorite moments from the movie?
Okay, I have a question.
Ooh.
When the Geomancer went back to the exhumation site right before they discovered like the inverted second coffin, there was a snake. That was,
yeah.
Oh,
Did that snake have a woman's
Yes.
face?
Hell
Yes,
yeah.
it did.
God,
Yeah.
yeah. And they only show it for a couple of
So
seconds.
subtle.
Yeah.
Yo, it's so creepy.
And you
Yeah.
question, like, wait, did I see
Well,
that
they
right?
explained too what it was. They mentioned something because remember the guy took the shovel and cut its head
Yeah.
off, and then he started getting sick and he was dying, and then he said, "Will you go back to the site
And say a prayer
and
for
say a
that snake.
prayer?" And that's what led to discovering, that
Yeah.
there was more happening there. But what were some of your favorite moments from this film?
I did love that moment with just kind of seeing that image of a woman's face on the head of a snake. It was like so disturbing. Some of the shadow play and the reflections,
Ooh,
like
yeah.
the first manifestation of the ghost, like that was preying on the sun. I mean, I was like chilled to the core. I'm like, oh, this is different. Like, this is hitting
Yeah.
different. And
Something
it was really,
weird is happening.
Something weird is happening. It was very exciting. The foxes in the woods,
Ooh,
just kind of
yeah.
like prowling at the presence of their trespassers. And finally, my heart just like burst from my chest when we saw that fireball. And
Oh,
you'll know what I'm
yeah.
talking about.
The fireball is interesting because in Night of the Demon, which is like an old
Yeah.
black and white horror movie about a demon,
Yeah.
it also
Hi.
appears and travels around like a fireball. I was like, oh my God. I don't know if that's just a superstition or something that people understand, but I thought it visually was so effective and scary. But
Yeah.
my favorite part is when the shaman was behind the tree and she had put all the smoke and incense and stuff in the tree. That was so beautiful.
Yeah.
And just
Yeah.
I just loved that
You're
scene
right.
and that she was sort of trying to deceive the demon. I just thought it was so interesting.
It was very
Yeah.
cool.
I love the scenes y'all have described. I'm gonna go back to the first ritual scene
Mhm.
because it just I had no idea that it was coming, and as soon as it started, I was like, oh my God. And then when they really get into it and she grabs the knives with like the pigs, I was like, oh my God, you can just feel this like, wait a minute, what am I looking at kind of energy. And
Mhm.
I love, I'm trying to say this without spoilers. There's that scene where they bring in sort of two other shamanistic characters, and they almost do this like deception acting
they
game.
perform. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like,
that was good.
Yeah, it just in that, and then the final, just the big scene. I was like, this movie has me wrapped around its finger. It can do no wrong. I love
Yeah.
it.
And I love the way it ended too, because for a second I thought it was going to end with the loss of that one character, the
Yeah.
Geomancer, and I was like, oh man, okay. But then it wasn't. He lived, and I thought that was really and the reason like he was, it seemed like he was about to die, and he was like, oh,
My daughter's
My
wedding.
daughter's wedding.
Yeah,
And I
it
was
goes
like-
back to the family.
yeah, totally. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Exhuma is now streaming on Shudder and AMC Plus. I'd say run, don't walk, and watch it as soon as you can because it is good with a capital G. And on that note, we are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will be answering all of your burning listener questions. Welcome back, my dirty darlings. It's time to unfurl our infernal correspondence. Ian, please do the honors.
Ooh, I'm ready to exhume this corpse, mama. Dollar Tree Darth writes, I firmly believe Drac needs her own special podcast segment. I've brainstormed a few ideas. Oh. 1. Drac's Comic Corner, where she discusses all things comic related. 2. Drac's Rant Room, where she just, and I love this, has asterisks on it, goes off on anything of her choosing. Or 3, Drax Mystery. Sorry.
Go on.
3, Drax Mysteries, where Drac asks and attempts to answer vital questions. For instance, her point about unquantifiable numbers of rodeo lesbians, or why do people try to be quiet in horror movies and then slam the door to the car very loudly and leave the lights on?
Well, thank you for that. He's right. I believe this listener is correct, despite what you two may think.
I agree. No, I agree
Wait.
fully. I think Dollar Tree Darth sees you.
Okay, but here's the spoiler. Here's the BTS of Creatures of the Night. I oftentimes do go on rants and then they get deleted because it's too much. And I'm like, delete that. I can't say that. So I'm sure Swan's probably collecting them somewhere on her laptop that luckily she won't be able to find because it's a mess. But one day maybe we'll release the rant corner.
There's an arsenal of stuff against you. I do love Drax Comic Corner though, because literally you can talk
Ain't nobody
about
gonna
anything.
listen to that.
Well,
Dollar Tree
if
Darth
they
might.
were interested, you would know it.
I'm going to tell you something cool. I think I could tell. I don't have to hide it, right?
Okay.
Ian might think this is cool. We have been invited to write a story for a horror anthology for DC Comics, utilizing their main character.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my
Isn't that
God.
cool?
I do think that's cool. That's
I'm so
fucking
excited.
dope.
Yeah. I thought you would like that. This is like
Wow.
the second or third anthology comic we're writing recently, so they should all be out in a couple of months.
I'm like mouth agape, gooped, gagged. That's
Oh, well, I'll
awesome.
tell you what they're about to, what the pitches were doing, and they were into all of them. So
Gag. Kelly from North Carolina writes, I loved the Oregon Vortex episode. Did you realize that in North Carolina, there is another place like it called the Mystery House in Boone? There is some type of magnetic energy there as well. It is pretty cheesy, but I thought you would love to check it out. And if you come to North Carolina, I will buy you dinner.
Well, I will take you up on that dinner in North Carolina because I bet there's some good places to eat there depending on where you are.
Oh yeah, barbecue.
But look, a lot of people came forward after that episode and reported that there are many of these vortex things around. And it's fun, but I'm like this. I understand, right? Like some people, as we talked about, will come out and been like, well, it's because of a mirror and this. I'm like, why don't you now go to the Christmas Eve TikTok and tell them that there's no fucking Santa Claus? Like, I got it, okay? I got it. This is mysterious and a cult, okay? So just shut up and let us do it.
It is stupid, it's silly, and it's fun. And I was really happy to go. I would go again.
I love these roadside attractions. I don't know how many have existed, but when we did Resurrection, we saw so many, like the giant alligator. I'm like, why is there an alligator in Arizona at a gas station? But I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't love that. You should keep animals at a gas station, but I just love that it exists.
Kayla asks, when it comes to the horror genre, I would like to think of myself as an expert when it comes to movies/shows, seeing almost every movie made no matter how old it is. So of course, the newest movies that have been produced leave me a little empty of the thrill, like when I started my horror adventure as a kid. Don't get me wrong, we have a few gems, but compared to how many movies get released a year, can we ever hope for a horror movie produced by y'all? I feel like you would give us an amazing blend of the cheese, thrill, jump scares, and those creepy crawly feelings without the redundancy of the current movie market.
The answer to that is yes, you can expect to see that. I don't know that it's going to be what people expect it to be, though.
It might not be everything in one project, right? Because
Right.
we're inspired by different aspects of the genre. So there may be one project where it is just legitimate terror and fear. And then there may be another project that's like, it really touches on all those other aspects, like the camp and the horror, the ridiculousness, that the place where funny and fear meet.
Yeah, we sort of operate in both of those lanes, so stay tuned.
Rod asks, will you guys be coming to Long Beach for the Midsummer Night Scream? Also, do you have plans for hosting the Queen Mary Haunted Harbor that has come back this year? The first time I saw you guys in public was the LGBT night at Haunted Harbor, and I was so happy I got to scream out, quote, I love you, Boulet Brothers, end quote. That is until people started looking at me, and I hope that I wasn't being cringy.
Well, thank you for saying that because that
Yes.
was actually a fun memory. I really had a great time hosting that night.
I loved that night. And Felony was with us, and Loris, and who was the third one?
Landon.
believe
Oh, it was
Landon,
Landon.
yeah.
Yeah. That was really fun, like running around there and like opening the gates and welcoming everybody in.
Well, yeah, Haunted Harbor is back this year because, you know, it was closed for a little while. And we have been in talks with them, actually. I don't know if we're going to host... I don't know if we can commit to like an every weekend kind of thing, but we could certainly do at least one big event. So we'll see. Definitely, we're working on it.
And Dragula and the Boulet Brothers will have a huge presence, just as large as we did last year at Midsummer Scream. So you can see us there as well.
And we're going to make Ian come too. Yay!
Yay! Jessica from Portland writes, my daughter and I saw you on the Titans tour and did not get VIP tickets for that show, so this year we made sure to get them for the Season 5 tour. I wanted to let you know, but also let the listeners know, that it was truly one of the greatest nights of my life and the upgrade was 1,000% worth it. Aside from getting to meet both of you and the other monsters, we were able to get front and center at the stage and you all put on my favorite drag show I've ever seen. And I do not envy you for having to choose the Season 5 winner because the top 4 were all so amazing and the best at one thing or another. The tailoring of Blackberry's outfits had me in awe, the showmanship of Throb Zombie rocked my world, the living art that is Neo, and the uniqueness of Orc all culminated in a perfect storm of wonder. And then, of course, you two are the top-notch queens of the underworld and share my tastes, so I always love your song choices and style best. Everything you said on the podcast about a contestant's talents or the way things look on screen versus in person is true. Everyone and everything was perfect. And getting a little taste of Creatures of the Night live with Junior Mints was the cherry on top. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
That makes me feel so good.
That's awesome.
This is just someone's genuine experience, and it was so amazing. And I know that they'll come back because this is not something you can just get anywhere. This type of show is very special, and I'm really happy with the cast, the crew, all of the shows they did, all the shows that we did too, because we did a lot of stuff on this season 5 tour.
Is the product of all of our work together.
Yeah.
You know, this is what we've been working towards forever, and we've learned and made adjustments as time goes by. And I'm so happy that it is where it is because it would be very easy to phone in a tour like this or to, you know, I know other tours and people that go on and I know how they think about it. And we just don't approach it like that. We approach every night like this is it. We have to blow these people's minds and we're really into it. And so, you know, I don't feel like that when I'm getting ready, obviously.
No.
I'm like, I need to blow my mind out of the side of my head. But
I need to do this additional shot of tequila to get through this night.
Ian brought that into the fold.
I was not a tequila queen until I met you, honey.
That's true. But
then he became a pusher.
You became the podcast pusher.
Yeah, true.
Which I thank you for.
I just like to party a little bit.
Fun.
On nights I thought I can't drink again tonight. You made me. You convinced me that I could, and you were right.
I'm like, Drac, come on,
You're capable
Swan.
of so much more than you know.
I love it because I'm always the pusher when it comes to that. So I was like, yay, Ian's the pusher too.
Drinking buddies.
Thanks again for joining us, Uglies. Please remember to rate, subscribe, and review our Phantasmal podcast wherever you listen. And make sure you do it on both Apple Podcasts and Spotify, or we won't release any more episodes. Also, be sure to send your listener questions to creatures@bouletbrothersdragula.com, and we'll be happy to answer them on air. We'll see you back here next week, darlings. The Boulet Brothers Creatures of the Night is hosted and produced by Drac Morta and Swantula Boulet, along with co-host Ian DeVogler, with music by Neuron Spectre.